I am going to be rebuilding cars until I get a supercar, and I've just bought the very first car in the series, this flood damaged Range Rover Sport. At first, it might look like this car is completely fine, but the carpets are absolutely saturated. Oh, that's all wet. On the inside, the interior is completely stripped. Along with a slight bit of mold, there is definitely a lot of electrical problems with this car. So, are we onto a winner here, or have we just lost a bunch of money? Because this thing wasn't cheap. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is a huge gamble, and if this thing doesn't run, it's an even bigger one. But luckily for me, I had a bit of an idea of what I was getting myself into, at least a guess. See, when I was bidding on this car at the auction website, these were the photos. It said this car was damaged due to an interior flood. Now, the first thing I did was I jumped onto YouTube and I typed in Range Rover flood. This video came up by Dadcars. In the video, he explains that he woke up one morning and his carpets were wet. It turned out it was actually a major design flaw on the Range Rovers, the rain drain. Going back to the photos on the auction website, I spotted this in one of the photos. I was pretty sure that this was actually the rain drain from the sunroof. With that idea locked in, I bid on the car, and with just my luck, the same day I bought this car was the worst day we have seen for rain in a very long time, and all I could think about was all the water that was going to pull up in this thing. Obviously, we've got two big problems. One, this thing is completely dismantled in the back. Like, I don't even know if everything's here. And two, the inside of this car is completely saturated. In the front, things look pretty good, so maybe let's start there. On the inside of the car, it actually doesn't smell too bad, which is quite surprising. I really expected this thing to smell horrible the minute you got in it. There's definitely some signs of some mold growing. This particular Range Rover Sport is the V6 twin turbo diesel. Now, at first, you might be worried about the engine, and I'm a little concerned too. This is the throttle body just here. This entire plastic piece is just one piece, and even here where it's definitely cracked is actually meant to be one thing. It's glued together. So when you buy this part, it comes with this piece and this piece, this little Y pipe together. It shouldn't move like that. And this bolt's loose. Someone's definitely had this off before. So we're gonna check that. The real reason for this car being written off comes down to this. Now, what this is the hose for the sunroof rain drain. So essentially what happens is when rain hits the top here, underneath this panel just here, which you can see has been removed before, is a drain. So the rain goes down here into this pipe, follows along down this pillar, into this boot, down into here, and then it runs out the car, out of, I think somewhere behind here, onto the ground. Land Rover decided to use a steel piece that rusted when rain hit it. All of these L494s are prone to this problem happening. The bigger problem is Land Rovers aren't exactly known for their electrical prowess. Electrical prowess, that's a weird thing to say, but whatever, I'm gonna run with it. And when I was looking this up, one of the common things to go is the amplifier for the sound system. Now, we've got the Meridian sound system in this because it is the HSC dynamic variant of the Range Rover Sport, and that can mean a very, very expensive amp. We should probably start by removing everything in here and just seeing how far we can get and what we have or don't have, because things might be missing. Mat, left boot lining, right boot lining, rear foot mats, Range Rover roof racks. Ow! Is that privacy thing that you pull out? Passenger seat, the middle bit. Foam doesn't really look any mold. Trim pieces, mat, and this. This is some sort of module. Let's look up the part number quickly. EX534C118 rear locking differential control module. Cool. Don't know why that's unplugged. Let's keep going. Now we're gonna find this piece out together, because under here is probably where a lot of the water's been able to go. So whatever's under here really is gonna tell us something, I think. You can tell they were having problems for a while because this is essentially like an anti-moisture thing, and it's probably actually a good thing it is in the car. That's probably at least done something to help. There we go, can you see that? And underneath that, all mold, lovely. That mold is really not a good sign. The thing about this is that where the range rail goes down on the right hand side is where there's a bunch of electronics. We're talking a fuse box, a junction for the power cables, the battery is actually underneath the boot, and there's a bunch of modules all in here. So even though it's leaked on the driver's B pillar, because the range drain goes down to the right, I think the water actually traveled along the range drain, reaching its way into here. Okay, that bolt is completely corroded. I reckon most of the water has come down into here because all of this is corroded. It's really not great. And then obviously we've got a bunch of stuff unplugged here. This side, I can't really see much signs of corrosion or anything, but this headlight is definitely got a bit of condensation in it, so, or tail light, there you go. So we'll see. The big thing is obviously a lot of the rain has come in here, and this carpet, even though you might not be able to see, is absolutely soaked. I really want to try and get this out. I guess we'll get the driver's seats out and try and pull the carpet out if I can. It's kind of good that I guess everything's already unbuttoned and everything, but there's just like, I know that they got a job to do, and obviously if they're not getting paid for it, they're not going to put everything back together, but damn. Like, then it comes to someone like me, and I've got no idea how it goes together, and that's a bit of a problem. I've just noticed, but this thing looks absolutely slammed. That probably means some sort of problem with the electric air ride. Ignoring that for the time being, we've got to work out how bad the water damage is under the carpets. And just here on the driver's seat, I'm having a bit of an issue with the seat belt. This is the driver's seat pretensioner. There's an explosive charge in that pretensioner that fires and then retracts, keeping you in your seat in the event of a crash. You can see when the assessor's gone to remove this, he's actually unwound it in a way that's actually ruined the pretensioner. So I'm actually going to need a replacement driver's seat belt. And after pulling the carpets out, it was clear the bad weather has really taken effect in this car. That is absolutely saturated. Not great. You can see this is, oh, that's all wet. Down there's some submerged wire. Lucky it's all insulated. Some water in there. I don't really know what this is, but I guess I'm gonna have to try and get all this water out. My main concern for tonight is to be able to get all the carpet out and just get all the carpet out to try and get things dry. Fingers crossed. It's pretty late after work already, and the reason I'm trying to get this done tonight is because there's a bit of a time crunch. If we can't completely dry out the interior, there's a risk of increasing the mold and, more importantly, increasing the amount of corrosion and potentially killing more modules. So I'm going through and drying the floors as much as I can with a towel. Also, this amount of water here, I'll pour it out in a second, but that was pretty much everything I collected from the driver's footwell, just using this tiny little container. And if I pour it out, you're probably not going to be able to see it, but you will hear it. And as you can see, I got this car today, and immediately everything is out. Now, this is the carpet for the rear seats, and this is the carpet for the the driver's seat. And both of these are extremely wet underneath. I think if I lift up under here, yeah, you'll see it's quite wet. So I don't know if it's going to rain tonight. So tomorrow, that's really bad. I'm extremely tired. My goal was just to get all of the carpet out tonight. And I guess we'll take a look at things in a little bit more depth during the light, probably on the weekend. See you soon. Hey, it's the next day, and I'm finally coming to terms that I've bought one of the most problematic when it comes to electrical issues cars that I possibly could have bought. And I also don't have a scan tool that's gonna work with my Range Rover. Ooh, my Range Rover. After doing some more research on the range drains, I have kind of figured out a few things that usually go wrong with them that I'm gonna check now, as well as check the engine. And it was time to log in here. I was having a look in the boot to see the other things that are usually corroded. Oh, and by the way, I did have those carpets drying during the day, but they are still a little bit wet. And just here you can see a massive junction box that comes straight from the battery, and it is all corroded with some huge, I think they're 150 amp fuses. So we're gonna have to clean all of those up. It should be okay. It's just some surface corrosion. And this is the second part, the amplifier that controls the sound system. Now this is under the passenger seat floor, but some of the bolts on top of the amplifier are wet, but none of this foam seems to be wet, so I'm really not sure. We'll see. Now the good news is the connectors on the loom and on the amp all look corrosion free, but we're gonna have to get this thing out and take it apart to see what it looks like on the inside. And to just double check that everything's okay and there's nothing leaking to get this engine turned on, I had a look under the car, and although it was a bit rusty, and this thing has 167,000 kilometers on it, everything looked fine and dry under there. I then discovered this thing doesn't have a dipstick, so I can't check the oil, but the coolant, although it looked a little bit watered down, was full. It's time to see if this thing is gonna turn over. This is a huge win. On the auction site, it doesn't tell you whether or not the car is running. So even though this thing is making some unhappy noises, hopefully a lot of that is from the car sitting and oil not being everywhere. Now on the dashboard, the only thing that we got really was that the eDiff wasn't available. But when I was pulling everything out last night, I did find this, the eDiff module. It doesn't seem like there's anything wrong with it. It looks completely fine. Now, when it comes to the electrical, we need a way to talk to the car, because at the moment, I don't have a way to tell what modules are working and where there's problems. So to make sure we had no low voltage codes, I left the battery on a trickle charger overnight. Then we're going to connect up my new toy and scan it for fault codes. This is an Autel. Essentially, it's a pretty powerful scan tool that's going to be able to tell me exactly what's wrong with this car or what's not working, and work backwards from there. This tool in particular was 700 Australian dollars, and I will be counting this towards the cost of the car. Now, I definitely could have gotten a cheaper one, but this thing can do all sorts of diagnosing and has a lot more power than your standard OBD tool. And considering we're going to be trying to do a lot out of this, I thought it was worth it. Now, if you're not sure exactly what I'm doing here, essentially a car's built up out of modules. There's a module to control your engine, there's a module to control your transmission, there's a module to control your seat, and so on and so forth. Literally everything. So essentially what I'm doing here is scanning every single module on the car and see if there's any error codes that's going to help me understand what's wrong with this car. Okay, now after rescanning it, we have 11 faults left, and that is kind of a lot and a bit alarming. But having a look over everything, okay, the powertrain stuff I think is related to not having the module in for the rear diff. Has 6 permanent, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 permanent codes. Left airbag deployment, right side airbag deployment control. I wasn't worried about these ones too much because I had both the front driver's seats completely unplugged. The thing that worries me a little bit is it doesn't say anything about the audio system, but the audio system definitely isn't working. Trouble code's not detected, but it's still not working here. It did not let me into that, so I reckon there's a problem with that. Let's get it out. So this is the amplifier, and it sits under the passenger seat, pretty low to the ground, and even though the connectors look alright, I'm not convinced that it survived this water damage. So I've pulled it out, I've got it in the living room, and after taking the back off, here's inside the amp, and you can just see everywhere is completely corroded, and there's some mold and bits and pieces. And once I got a little bit closer in, it was evident that, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is cooked. Now there's a few different types of amps for these Range Rovers, and unfortunately I have the most expensive one. They seem to range between $1,300 and $1,600, and just for one part, damn, that's expensive. But before I order some new ones, I've got to lead on some carpets because the driver's carpet just won't air out. At the deepest part of the carpet, it's still just a bit damp, and if I put it back in the car like that, it's not going to work. We're going to drive over an hour to get some new carpets because the ones that I have just haven't dried. Now that I've sold the S3, we have to take the new whip. Bugger, but we've had a lot of rain here, especially in Brisbane, so I've taken the day off work. I've driven an hour with tolls to get these carpets, and unfortunately these ones are also wet. Okay, we can't control whether or not we can get parts, but there are a couple of things that we can do in the time being. First, we can take care of that tire that is flat because I drove over a nail. And two, we can completely wipe down the interior because it is moldy. We need some isopropyl alcohol to be able to kill all that. Let's do it. Under here, that screw there has pierced the tire, making it completely flat. One bright side that came out of all this was I actually found out that the air suspension works just fine, and this big win. Thankful for that. Hey, we've rolled back a little bit, and as you can see, I've got just this tiny screw. Check the size of that nail. Now, if you haven't used a puncture repair kit before, there's a couple of things in the pack. You got this swirly thing. Shove this in a hole. Essentially, it cleans out the insides and makes it a bit rough. Then you've got these sticks. These are like the rubber things that you're gonna plug the hole with. Then you've got plug bonds. This is essentially rubber cement. You've got an applicator. Shove this in with some of this cement, inflate the tire, and hopefully it should be good. We can check after with some soapy water to see if there's any air bubbles coming back out. It means we'd probably have to do it again, but so far so good. So I've got some 70% isopropyl alcohol mix. Let's clean up some mold. So I just gave everything a real good going over with the 70%. All the door cards, the steering wheel, the dash, the center console, literally everywhere that I thought there might be mold or I could see it. Also, I managed to get out the driver's seat when I finally found out how to actually unbolt the seatbelt. And for the moment, you've probably all been waiting for exactly what I spent on this 2016 Range Rover Sport HSE Dynamic Package SDV6 twin turbo thing, whatever. I have spent a total of $12,749.33. Let me know whether or not you think this was a good idea, a bad idea, or if I'm completely stuffed. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe. Every subscriber helps gain revenue for the channel and get us closer to the goal of reaching a supercar. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time. Low-key, I keep contemplating whether or not this is actually a good idea or if I should just leave it to the people that have money to take these sorts of risks, because I definitely don't.